Cadmus's men find the snake, serpent or dragon or whatever it is that you want to call it. Or rather, the snake rears its blue-crested head and has its way with Cadmus's men. And now they are all dead, devoured by the snake, serpent, dragon, or whatever. The question our hero Cadmus, must be asking himself is, why send nameless attendants to do a hero's job? Let's read through the next 11 lines. Fecerat exiguas iam solotissimus umbras, quae morasit sociis mirator agen renatus vestigatque viros. Tegumen de repta leoni peles erat, telum splendenti lancea ferro, et iaculum tello quanimus praesantior omni. Ut nemus intravit laetateque corpora vidit, victoremque supra spatiosi tergoris hostem, tristia sanguinea lambentem vulnera lingua. Aut ultor vestrae fidissima pector mortis, aut comes, inquit erro. Dixit dextraque molarem sustulit, et magnum magno conamina misit. So we need to change the scene from the sacred grove to where Cadmus is currently resting. And Ovid does that very nicely with the pluperfect tense verb fecerat. Remember, he likes to use the pluperfect tense for background and other scene moments. And the chiasmus in this line. Line 51 has a subjunctive verb in it, which you should immediately recognize as being in an indirect question, right? The clause is introduced by a question word, check, and there's a verb of speaking or thinking in the main clause, check. Now we finally get our description of Cadmus, the son of Agenor. Well, not quite, but we do find out what he has with him. First off is his tegumen, his cloak. It's a pellis de repta leoni. And he also has a tellum, a lancea splendenti ferro. A lancea, by the way, is a thrusting spear, a lance, far different from Cadmus's other weapon, a iaculum, a throwing spear. So these three pieces of equipment are very important, especially since he, unknowingly, is about to come face to face with a deadly serpent, snake, dragon, or whatever. So Ovid gives Cadmus one more piece of equipment, an animus that is praestantior omni tello. Notice the ablative of comparison after the comparative adjective here. The equipment, especially the lion's pelt, is very reminiscent of the greatest hero in Greek and Roman mythology, Hercules. By describing Cadmus in a similar manner, we should automatically think that he is just as strong and heroic and great as Hercules. The next line, 55, begins with an ut, which can introduce a purpose, result, indirect command, or fear clause, among others. But check out the verb, intravit. It's not subjunctive. So the ut does none of those and is just translated as or when. I like Ovid's placement of the words here in the second half of the line. We first come across the laetata corpora, then in the next line we see the victorem spatiosi corporis hostem on top of these bodies. That's the supra. The chiasmus in this line is great because it really serves to emphasize the huge body of the snake. Serpent, well, you get the picture. The structure in the next line is also pretty amazing. We have a whole bunch of words that end in an A. So let's scan the line. We find out that the A's in tristia and vulnera are short. These words are neuter accusative plural, while the A's in sanguinea and lingua are long. These words are feminine ablative singular. So this is a synchisis structure, where the first goes with the third and the second with the fourth in an overlapping and kind of confusing manner. But it's even more cool than you think. The adjectives are in the first half of the line, while the nouns are in the second half, and they are split up by the participle in the middle. Lambentem is accusative because it's describing the snake, the victorem hostem. Scholars have been so transfixed by lines like these that they call this, a synchisis with a verb in the middle, a golden line. Ovid wouldn't really have strived to make this line, but it's a pretty neat structure and worth mentioning, at least once. Cadmus speaks in the next two lines. Even in classical epic, heroes have to have great macho words. So Cadmus's are pretty good, and he even does it in chiastic structure. So check out the parallels between line 58, which begins aut ultor, either your avenger, and line 59, which finishes up the phrase aut comes, or your companion. Latin didn't use quotation marks for its speech in epic. They hadn't been invented yet. So what your poet will often do is find a way to identify that the speech is over. And that's exactly what Ovid does here with the dixit, which may seem to be a bit redundant since we had inquit just 2 words before. Also, the molarum at the end of this line is modified by the magnum in the next, and this is the object of both sustulit and misit, and Ovid makes this pretty clear by putting the noun in one clause and the adjective in the other. That's pretty neat, I think, especially since Ovid puts the magnum next to the magno, and something that Latin can get away with and English cannot. Okay, let's read through the lines one more time and let your mind fantasize about our hero Cadmus. Fecerat exiguas jam sol altissimus umbras, quae morasit sociis mira toragen noranatus, vestigatque veros. Tegumen de repta leoni pellis erat, tellum splendenti lancea ferro, et jaculum tello quanimus praestantior omni. Ut nemus intravit laetataque corpora vidit victoremque supra spatiosi tercores hostem, tristia sanguinea lambentem vulnera lingua. Aut ultor vestrae fidissima pectora mortis, aut comes, inquit ero, dixit dextraque molarem sustulit, et magnum magno conamina miset.